Today's video is titled Financial Freedom Blueprint via Multifamily. Let's define what is financial freedom. Financial freedom is a state of financial well being where an individual or a household has achieved a level of income or assets that allow them to live comfortably and meet their financial goals without being overly reliant on a specific job or income source. It involves having enough passive income or investments to cover living expenses and discretionary spending. Shortly, I will take an example of capital invested in a multifamily deal and how that money can grow over a 10, 15, or a 20-year span. The video should help you visualize the trajectory of your capital growth and what benefits one can have investing in multifamily. Before we get started, a disclaimer slide. I'm not an investment advisor, and this presentation is provided for educational purposes only. The numbers and examples are purely based on my experience and cannot be applied across all scenarios. Do not invest on my recommendations alone, consult a professional advisor. Let's get started. Let's start by listing some of the assumptions that are commonly found in a multifamily deal. These are used to measure the returns on an investment. The first one is IRR, the internal rate of return. This is basically time-based return on your capital. This ranges on a multifamily deal anywhere from 14% to 19%. The second one is equity multiple. This one ranges from 1.7x to 1.9x. This simply means if you put in $1 into the investment, after your hold period, you will get $1.7 to $1.9 back. This third one is cash on cash return. You can think about this as cash flow for investing in real estate. This typically is averages around 7%. And the last one is the hold period. The hold period for most multifamily deals are 4 to 6 years. So based on these assumptions, let's take some starting capital and see where we end up in a 5, 10, 15, 20-year snapshot. So let's assume year one, you have $60,000 invested in a multifamily deal. Now, there are two aspects to this as far as a passive investor is concerned. One is your growth of capital at the end of 5 years, and the second is the passive cash flow you get every year. So, the passive cash flow can be tied to the cash on cash return. So, with an average of 7%, you're looking at about 4,200 a year, or if you want to convert it in terms of month, then it's $350 a month. And in terms of your growth in your capital that you invested after 5 years, you can think about equity multiple or IRR. So let's try to be conservative. Most multifamily deals have an equity multiple ranging 1.7x to 1.9x. Let's say after taxes, let's say you get 1.6x. That means at the end of 5 years, you are going to get 96,000 back. Now, 96,000 is a sum of all cash flows for all 5 years plus the proceeds from the sale of the property. Now, as a passive investor, you have two options. You could stick this under your mattress and let it sit there, or you could let compounding do the trick. You could reinvest this money into another deal and again have two tangents. One is the growth of capital for another 5 years, assuming the hold period is an average of 5 years. And the second aspect of it is the passive cash flow. So at 7%, 96,000 invested at 7% of cash flow, you will get approximately 6,700 a year, rough numbers, and or month-wise $560 a month. Pardon me. So you kind of get the flow. You can keep reinvesting your capital, you can keep, let it grow and maybe have a big portfolio value at the end of 15 years or 20 years, or whenever you decide to stop investing. So if we keep going with this trend, your portfolio value at the end of 10 years is 154k. Same story. You can reinvest it to get a yearly cash flow of about 10k a year, or almost 900 a month. The second tangent to this would be, at the 15-year snapshot, your capital has grown 1.66. Again, we are trying to be conservative in our analysis. Um, you will end up at almost 247,000. I have done the math, so I know these numbers. You can do your math based on the capital that you want to invest. Um, you can decide to withdraw this, you can decide to reinvest this. If you decide to reinvest this, you're talking at about 17.2k a year. You kind of get the trend of where I'm going, or 1450 a month. If you decide to reinvest this is what your passive cash flow will be. And at the end of a 20-year snapshot, you will have almost 395k in portfolio value. So 20 year is a good time frame to imagine, you need it for retirement, or you need it for kids education, or you could use it to pay off debt, or save it for that big fat wedding. If you have other sources of income, you could still decide to reinvest this money and net almost 27,000 a year, or close to 2300 a month. 2300 month seems to be a good amount for your kids' monthly expenses when they are in college. So you can slice and dice it however you want, but this is where you will get at the end of 20 years. Now, one can say, Rohan, maybe 2300 a month is not going to move a needle for me. It's not a lot of amount for having invested and waited for 20 years. That is true, but you need to remember the only capital you invested was 20 years back, which was 60,000. You have not reinvested any new capital into the deal. So, um, we will do a what if then analysis to see what can happen if you reinvest or inject new capital as years go by every year, and we can up this conservative number to like a bigger number and see where you get, and see if that kind of helps you visualize your and reach your financial goals. So let's move on to an Excel that kind of simplifies this flow, and play with some of these numbers. We will play with the equity multiple, and we'll play with injection of new capital every year and see how we end up. This Excel organizes the data that I just shared on the whiteboard. This section is the assumptions, and this section is the results. Like we had seen, we are assuming an initial capital investment of 60,000 with no other capital injected for any other years. So that is 0. We assumed a conservative equity multiple of 1.6x and a cash on cash return of 7%. And these were the results we saw. This is how your portfolio value grew over a 20-year period, and this was how your passive income grew. At the end of 20 years, you were sitting at about 2300 a month in passive cash flow. Now let's play around with some numbers and assume that you decided to invest another 60,000 in the second year of the deal. So now you have two deals. You had the first one, and now you have another one where you've invested 60,000. This is how your number changes. Your portfolio value went from 390k to 780k, and your yearly cash flow, passive cash flow income is now at 55,000. Your monthly converted is 4,500. So you can see you could play around with this. Let's say you like the results that you see, and you decide to do another one. Now you have a total of 3 multifamily deals. Now you have a portfolio value of 1.1, and a monthly passive cash flow of 6,800. Um, if you decide to do another one, so you can keep going based on how you want to see, where you want to see yourself financially. Now you have a portfolio value of 1.5 million and a passive cash flow of almost 9 grand a month. So this should help you visualize real estate is a great vehicle for passive cash flow, and for many of them, this could substitute their W-2. Maybe your spouse decides to not work, and you could have this supplemental income coming in at a 15-year time, at a 10-year time, or a 20-year time. Um, the other aspect of it is the equity multiple. I had assumed a conservative number. I just want to show you what could happen in reality. We get anywhere from 1.7 to 1.9x. So let's say you have few deals that you get 1.7, there are few that you get 1.9, 2.x, 2.0x, or 2.1x. So even if you were to increase 1.6 to 1.7, your portfolio value has hit 2 million and your monthly passive cash flow is sitting at 11 and a half grand. If you make this 1.8, you almost get 15 grand a month and 2.5 million in portfolio value. So this is the power of compounding. This is the power of investing in multifamily because of its nature to produce high cash flow and also provide you good portfolio growth. Let me know your thoughts on what you think about today's presentation. Email me, text me if you have questions. If you need your hands on this Excel, I can share it with you. Thanks once again for listening to me until here. I'll see you next time.